When was the last time you went out on a long road trip? And by long road trip, I mean a number of days on the road and thousands of kilometers behind you. 2020, it's thrown curveball after curveball at us, and it's sort of taken away what we love, which is heading out onto the road and road tripping and exploring. Over the last few months, we've sort of rediscovered that slowly, first heading out for short day trips and then maybe 1 or 2 day trips, but I think it's time to hit the big leagues. Welcome to the Great India Drive with Evo India. We're going to be taking this i20 across the country on a road trip that is true to the Great India Drive name. We're flagging off from here in Delhi and we're going to be heading north to the snows of Narkanda. After that, we're going to be heading south again to the sands of Rajasthan, and then we're going to be rediscovering the sea along the western coast of India. Snow, sand and sea. I think those are worthy of the Great India Drive. So without wasting much time, let's get flagged off and hit the road. So our route is fairly simple. We're going Delhi to Dehradun, Dehradun to Chandigarh, Chandigarh to Narkanda. Now, the first 2 days should be fairly easy. Dehradun is at the foothills of the Himalayas. Shouldn't be any stress getting there. It's going to be a regular road. Chandigarh, again, it's in the plains, so there's no real challenge in there. But after Chandigarh is where the real climb begins. That's when we start hitting the hills and we're going to see what this i20 is made of. After all, you can't call it the Great India Drive without hitting the mountains, because the mountains are possibly the most challenging terrain in India. We climbed up the Himalayan Expressway, drove through Shimla and continued onwards deeper into the mountains. And yes, we did hit snow. Now, driving on these conditions is a little tricky because there is black ice on the road, and black ice is very deceptive. You don't know whether you're driving on tarmac or on mud or on ice, and the ice is actually very slippery. So when you're driving, you've got to be very smooth with your inputs. You've got to keep adequate distance from the car in front of you. You've got to make sure you're not braking hard, you're not accelerating hard, and you're not turning hard. Now, the i20, I found it to be actually quite capable on this sort of surface. First of all, it has traction control, which is a huge help. I'm not spinning up the wheels. But more importantly, I really enjoy the torquey diesel motor. It has a lot of low down grunt, which means I don't have to shift too much, and getting rolling from a standing start on an incline is very easy. Another thing that I have to tell you is that we haven't scraped the chin or the bumpers or the underbody anywhere yet. We've come all the way up to Narkanda, 60 kilometers ahead of Shimla. As long as you're sticking to roads, the highways, maybe the interior roads, as long as you're sticking to roads, you won't have any trouble whatsoever. You can go wherever you like. And here we are at the end of the first leg of our Great India Drive. We came out looking for snow and we found plenty of it. So much that I'm freezing right now and I can't wait to get back into the comfort of my car. Our next leg is to head to the sands of Rajasthan. So from here, we head down south back to Delhi. Following that, we head south into Rajasthan. I am made to be free. So yesterday we had a really nice fun drive down the hills. The i20, it's actually a lot of fun in the corners. It's so enthusiastic, and particularly the fact that its suspension is so well set up for Indian roads, it makes it even more fun. Coming down from Shimla to Chandigarh, the roads, they're good, but they're not always great. So you've got these corners, lovely sweeping corners, but they're bumpy. And in the i20, you can really take them with some amount of speed because the suspension absorbs all those bumps really, really well. Today though, we have a completely different kind of road. Today we're on arrow straight highways heading into Rajasthan. Now, a whole different aspect of this i20 has been brought to light with this. It's cruisability. I'm sitting on the highway. The speed limit here is 90 kilometers an hour. I am sitting at, what, 1600, 1700 RPM, 1700 RPM, yeah. And I can barely hear the engine. The only noise I can hear is road noise and a little bit of wind noise. But the engine is actually very refined. It feels like a very comfortable long distance mile muncher. And getting out of Delhi, we've been met with some absolutely gorgeous sights. The fields here, there are a lot of mustard seeds, or sarso as they call it in this area. And they're in full bloom. So you have these gorgeous yellow flowers lining the sides of the highways on both sides. It's really, really beautiful. And as we've come south, so much has changed. The topography has changed. Now it's just flat for miles. I can see the road all the way almost to the horizon. It's completely different from what we experienced in the mountain. It's equally fun and engaging because it's a different sort of challenge, you know, navigating these roads, particularly with our traffic and the sort of discipline we have on our roads. We're heading out of our homes after so long, and it's just an absolute pleasure to be back on the road. We drove further and further into Rajasthan, and we eventually found a trail that was heading into the desert. So here we are at our second destination, the sands of Rajasthan. Now the i20, it's a front wheel drive car, so it was probably a little stupid to bring it this far into the desert. But we saw this trail leading in, and you know, we said, we've come so far, so what the hell? But the sand is getting softer, the tires are starting to dig into the sand, so I'm just going to call it quits and head back. We're going to head to our base in Pune now, but before we get there, there is one more destination we have to hit, and that is probably my favorite of all, the sea. We're going to be giving the Ahmedabad-Bombay highway a pass and heading along the coastal road from Daman to Dahanu. Now, this is not a road I've actually driven before, and I'm quite excited to check it out. As you can see, I've gotten rid of my jacket, and that's because we finally hit warmer conditions. 28 degrees, that's what the temperature outside is, at least that's what the MID is telling me. And we're headed to the beach, we're headed to Daman. The turnoff for Daman is not too far ahead. Before we turn off over there, I just want to touch upon a few things. We've been on the road for 6 days now, and in that time, we've had to be very cautious about our hygiene and sanitation on the road. Now, in the new normal, you've got to be extremely careful, extremely mindful of everything you're doing. I'll just give you a few tips, some of the stuff that we're doing. Carrying sanitizer, you know, we're carrying our masks. Our masks are always at hand. So if I'm with somebody in the car or if I'm stepping out of the car, I get my mask on. Other stuff that you need to keep in mind that we've learned over time is carry some extra masks. It's very easy to lose your mask or leave it behind in a hotel room or soil it or dirty it, or anything could happen to it, you know. You should also be mindful of the little things. Where do you stay? Stay at hotels that take their hygiene seriously, that are sanitizing their rooms properly. We've tied up with Lemon Tree Hotels, and they have a comprehensive program called Rest Assured where they sanitize the room, clean it, do all that business. So when we get there after a long day's drive, we know we're in a safe space, and that's extremely important. At the end of the day, road trips, they're about having fun. And if you're going to fall sick, or even if you're stressed about falling sick, you're not going to have a good time. So take these precautions. Sure, wearing a mask all the time is not the most comfortable thing, but you'll at least have a good time, and that's what's important. In other news, we've hit 2,500 kilometers on the trip computer so far. And do I have an update on the i20 for you? Yes, I do. We set out with the agenda to see if a premium hatchback like the i20 can do it all. Have hatchbacks shed that idea that they are budget cars? Can it do long distance driving? Can it take on terrain like the Himalayas? Can it be your daily driver? Can it make you feel special? Is it comfortable? These are the questions we wanted to answer, and so far the i20 honestly has impressed. Up in the mountains, flawless. The ride quality, really good. It's enthusiastic, was a lot of fun in the corners, and at the same time, it took on everything we threw at it. So the bad roads, the ice, whatever came its way, it sailed through. Out on the highway, really good long distance ability. Again, it feels extremely planted, stable, you feel in control all the time. The engine, it's tractable, you can sit at cruising speeds very comfortably, really good fuel economy. Over 2,500 kilometers, I've done 19.6 kmpl. Now, that is impressive. As for the city, we haven't really driven this particular car in the city, Though I was running a turbo petrol long-termer in the city for a while, and I can tell you it's an extremely nice car to drive around town, and particularly if you've got bad roads, because it just deals with bad roads really well. But this car we have taken through some really narrow roads, through villages, towns, all of that, no problems at all. Good visibility, you can see everything out very comfortably, you can tackle narrow roads very comfortably, and overall very confidence inspiring. Does it make you feel special? Honestly, it does. There's nothing else like it on the road right now. We were somewhere in Rajasthan and somebody stopped, pulled over, said, hey, listen, I want to check out this car. People are interested in it. People want to talk about it. And it's drawing a lot of attention. It looks very funky, very different from everything on the road. Now, we've seen a few registered cars around, and maybe they'll become more common once they start flying off the shelves. But right now, it has a novelty factor, and that matters. It makes you feel cool. You see people in other cars looking around, turning around, craning their necks to see what this car is, and that does make you feel special. And other people aside, does the car itself make you feel nice? It does, yeah. I mean, everything's very neatly laid out, quality is good, it rides well, it's quiet, it's refined. It feels like a premium experience, I may put it that way. It feels like an experience that is trying to keep you comfortable all the time, and that's a nice feeling. You like to be pampered, and the i20, it does that, you know, it likes to pamper you. It doesn't want you to face any sort of harshness. So for the sake of sportiness, it hasn't stiffened up the suspension, nothing like that. It's very well balanced, and it makes you feel comfortable, it makes you feel pampered. I get very excited when we come next to the sea, and I think we're getting really close. This looks like a cut off to somewhere where we can possibly see the sea. And man, would you look at that? Would you look at that? We found the sea. And here we are at the end of the road. We started in the snows of Narkanda, we traveled to the sands of Rajasthan, and we end here in front of the sea on the western coast of India. A total of 2,800 kilometers, and the i20, it's been flawless. Honestly, I never thought we'd pull off such a long road trip without a hiccup in 2020, but we've made it happen. That is progress, and I think it's a sign that we can look forward to 2021. I hope you have a great year ahead.
Subscribe to the Evo India channel and hit the bell icon to keep pace with the thrill of driving.